Out of waiting.
That's a shame.
You want to smoke some dope?
Oh, God.
Yeah, right.
Ladies and gentlemen, Zoe Williams is back in the building with his brothers for the Smoke Mirrors podcast, the podcast where, we prove to you that everything isn't what it seems. Joining me is, of course, the homies, Chace Infinite, a.k.a. Chace Johnson.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for joining us again for another episode of Smoke Mirrors. Enjoying some great conversations and some even better cigars.
And then my brother, the thespian, the master of his craft, known as Marvin Jones III, otherwise known as Crondon and many other colloquial terms.
Of Windsor.
Crondon of Windsor Place.
Crondon.
What up, Marvin Jones III in the building? Talk to us, man.
Crazy, isn't it?
Come on.
Crazy, bro. It's crazy, isn't it? No, thank you guys again for joining us on Smoke Mirrors podcast. As the brother just told you, my name is Marvin Jones, and I'm just happy to be here with my brothers, having a good smoke and a good conversation. Again, nothing is what it seems, especially in today's climate, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess we're going to start with what we're smoking. I know everybody's smoking something. We have a special guest today, guys, that I'm really excited to talk to.
Tell us who he is.
Well, me and the brother work together. I consider him a friend, and in a lot of ways a mentor. He's been in the business a long time. Very accomplished screenwriter, producer, professor. He's, I guess you could say at this point, he's from Los Angeles, but hailing from Detroit.
Yeah, okay.
Hailing from Detroit,
But
but he's been
Detroit,
in.
he can't say from Los
I know.
Angeles.
I don't want to get him in trouble. He's from Detroit, but he's been living in Los Angeles
Yeah.
for a long time. That I consider him a native like myself.
Los Angeles.
I stay
at
Where you
Los
stay
Angeles.
at?
He stays at Los Angeles.
Comedy.
Very accomplished. I mean, we'll get into his resume, but everybody give a warm welcome. Again, I'd like to present to some, introduce to others, my good brother, Rob Edwards.
Come on.
Hey!
Rob Edwards
you.
is
Make
in the
some
building,
noise.
ladies and gentlemen.
Thank
Smoke
you.
and mirrors.
There
Let's
you
go.
All right. All right. Yeah, right.
Yes.
Let's get lit up.
Yeah,
So-
man, light up.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, what are we smoking now?
Pleasure.
Oh, I'm smoking the Byron 1850 number 2.
Come on, luxury.
Byron is one of my favorite companies. Selected Tobacco, everything they make out of Costa Rica is great. This is an Ecuadorian binder with a Ecuadorian wrapper, Peruvian binder.
Cherry
with
wood.
Dominican and Nicaraguan filler. Yeah, this is a luxury cigar for sure.
Maybach.
This might retail for, depending where you buy it, it's between 40 and 55.
Well, tell us then.
$60.
And then, my good friend Marvin, what are you smoking?
Today I'm smoking the Patoro Terry Blanche, which is a beautiful Connecticut. I think it's Ecuadorian Connecticut. I'm not, I'm not going to get into the parameters of the cigar right now. I know I actually reviewed the cigar too, so I should know this off the head. But right now,
It's fine that you don't remember.
My brain is not working for me in terms of remembering the blend on the cigar. This is, I don't know, my 7th or 8th one, but it is an incredible cigar, Patoro Terry Blanche. That's what I am smoking today.
Love it. And Brother Edwards, what you smoking?
I'm smoking Marvin gave me a cigar.
Drunk chicken.
It's
DCO.
got a nice nuttiness. It's a Robusto.
Mhm.
Nice
the
chocolatey
drunken chicken, yeah.
kind of thing. Very smooth.
You like it?
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, so friends of ours have a brand called the Drunk Chicken. Some females, black-owned female brand.
Uh-huh.
Shout out to Desiree.
Shout out to Desiree
Okay.
Silver and the good people at Drunk Chicken Cigars. And that's a DCO. It's Chase's favorite
That's
from
my
the brand.
favorite from the brand.
And one of my favorites as well. But they have a whole line. They make very good, smooth cigars. I'm from Nicaragua, and they're doing good stuff.
And where are they located out of?
They've originally started in D.C.,
Mhm.
but now they're out of Florida, out of Fort Myers.
Nice,
Mhm.
nice,
Mhm.
nice, nice.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then I'm on the Cavalier Inner Circle. They say the best cigars are gifted. This was gifted to me by my brother Chase. I've never had this one, but it says it's Nicaraguan Habano, Honduras, Dominican, all the flavors and different nuances that I like. A
Cavalier
complex smoke.
Cavalier makes some incredible cigars.
So we're going to see, man. We're going to see. I'm going to light mine up. You got that fire
Yes,
for
sir,
me?
brother. Here you
Thank you,
go.
brother. So
Well,
get us started, Marvin. What we talking about today?
Well, I want to pose some questions to my brother Rob, since he's been so gracious to join us
Mm-hmm.
here. I'm very interested in knowing, first off, you're an accomplished screenwriter, right?
Hope so.
Yes, you are.
Ragnarok.
What made you get into, when did you know that you wanted to write?
Oh man, that's a great question. I think it's funny. When I was in school, I was not the class clown,
Mhm.
but I was a kid in the back of the class that made fun of the class clown
Mhm.
because we were like reverse alphabetical, right? So Edwards, I was in the back row,
Mhm.
and I just loved. I don't know. I just loved doing that every day. Something would happen in front of the class, and then I would just kind of lean over,
Mhm.
and then just under my breath start saying stuff, and that became like I started doing a comic strip, and then I started getting it theater, and then I started getting, and then I was like, okay, how can I be a part of this?
Mhm.
And movies like Star Wars were coming around. It seemed like anything was possible.
Mhm.
Didn't see many black people doing it, but
Mhm.
it seemed like it was something that I really wanted to do.
Mhm.
And then the rest of it was just learning how to do it as well as I possibly could.
Right. And did
Okay.
you study writing in college?
Yeah, I studied at Syracuse University.
Right.
And I studied short story writing and screenwriting.
Mm.
So I just really wanted to get my storytelling
Mm.
together. And yeah, but in my senior year, I offered to write everybody's senior thesis.
Right.
I was just like, I wanted to write everything for everybody all
Right.
the time,
Mm.
and get my reps in.
Mhm.
The only way to get better, right, is
Right.
to do it. Actually, I say like do it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get the right criticism.
Yes. Yes.
Make the adjustment, do it again,
Yes.
get beat up again, rinse
Right.
and repeat,
Right.
and just keep going and going. And so long as you don't take yourself out of it, so long as you don't say like, oh, I can't take this, or the world is against me, or whatever,
Mhm.
and you just keep doing it, you will get better at it. You have
Yeah.
to get better at it.
Yes.
If it's free throws, if it's,
Yeah.
whatever.
John Wooten, repetition, repetition,
Yeah,
repetition.
right.
Right.
Absolutely,
Yeah. Right.
absolutely.
Right.
So that's where, that's where it comes from. So I fear no genre, So I've done sitcoms, I've done hour-long TV, I've done animation, I've done
Mhm.
live action. A lot of people just stop,
Right.
So.
I love what you said just right there. I love it. I really do, Rob. You said, I fear no genre.
Mm-hmm.
One, in my art form, I know in my brother Chase's art form, I know in Zoe's art form, which are related but separate.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we share in common, is that we fear no genre, we fear no opportunity or mountain to climb.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanna in our conversation, because you have an immense resume, brother. That's, again, coming from the world of film and television myself, it's incredible. For those that know, so in our I'm gonna just throw things at you, and you
I try to
reveal.
stay busy.
And you reveal.
How
So
about that?
There you go, right?
So okay, so we got Syracuse, we got repetition.
I got a question actually, because I know for me, I don't know what age I was when I realized that most of the television shows that I watched were actually scripted. There was actually somebody writing them.
Mhm.
Because I
Mhm.
don't think that wasn't something I was really conscious of when I was watching, like, the Jeffersons
Mhm.
or
Good times.
Good Times. So
Right.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite sure at the time, right? You see these names and stuff after but by that time I was too busy talking about the episode.
Mhm.
When did you realize, as someone who aspired to be a writer early, because you just told us about when you were thinking about it, when did you realize it was somebody actually writing those episodes, and how you put those two together?
Yeah. Well, I think it's probably around the same time. You just watch all those shows, and you say, "Man, that was so funny," and then and then the credits roll, and you're like, "There's all these writers,"
Right.
and they would just list a million writers,
Mhm.
and so for me, I just started getting really curious, like, okay, well, wait, how does that whole thing work? Because I think, yeah, same thing. You think, oops, at the beginning, you think, here's just a bunch of funny people. Sherman Hemsley just walks into a room, starts doing, starts popping
Right.
off on people,
Yeah.
and then they film it, and everybody walks away.
Right.
And eventually, you start saying like, "Oh, wait a minute, okay, this is tight." I see this, and it's just really a tight presentation of something. What is that?
Mm.
And so I would, even before I knew what I was doing, I would just write down dialogue.
Did you have any writers that stood out or ones that you were favorites from that period or time when you realized the guys were writing them?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because for me, it was mostly there were entire staffs of people. Like most shows will have 12 writers or something like that on them. So it's hard to tell like whose shows
doing
are who is writing what on what show.
Mm.
But there were some shows that I thought were just really, really, really funny, and then some shows that were okay. And I thought that like, for me it was like sometimes I'd see a stand-up comic and he'd be really funny and he would have a list of writers.
Mm.
And then or a stage play and they would have a list of writers. So
Mm.
very early on it was mostly the stand-up comics who also wrote movies. And those were the guys I liked. So even like Woody Allen, people like that. I remember talking to Chris Rock, and he was like, "Oh, Woody Allen, don't get me started on Woody Allen." And he would do the routines top to bottom,
Mm.
because comedy's comedy a lot of times. And so, Neil Simon, Larry Gelbart is a guy who wrote wrote Tootsie, his movie.
Mm.
He wrote MASH. He wrote a bunch of stuff.
Couple small.
There was exactly, and then there were, and then like I'll go granular because there are people I really really like. There's all the guys who wrote Taxi, the guys who wrote Cheers, and a lot of those are the same guys.
Mm.
The guys who wrote there were really funny people who wrote whatever Laverne and Shirley and Happy Days and those kind of shows. So every time I would go and I would just start studying, I would just like sit there. I'm old, so it was like VHS tape, right? You sit there, you put the VHS tape in, you play it, and then you just pause and you write down what you just heard, and then you play it again, and you pause, and you just go through it. And then I would just look at it. I put it up on the wall. I'd say, okay, what made this funny?
Mm.
Like how many jokes were there in this minute of comedy and stuff like that. I was terrible. And now, of course,
Right. It was not terrible. It turned into a career.
oh yeah. Well, what happens is you wind up at a place like Disney or something like that, and you find out that everybody is like that.
Well, yeah.
Everybody at the upper level, everybody knows everything about everything. It's like film school on steroids.
Right.
Most of these places, there are places where nobody knows anything, and you can see the quality of the work
result,
is not
yeah.
all that great.
Mm.
But in the places where they like pro ball is different from from college or rec ball, right?
Exactly.
And at that level, there are people who absolutely know everything about everything,
Mm.
and that's when it gets really fun because then you're challenged.
Right.
And I think that a lot of people, even, from music where I started in
Mhm.
music, right? Me and Chase, right? And Enzo as well.
Mhm.
Like, I think, like, you hear it all the time, like rappers, right? When they talk about, well, how'd you start rapping? And a lot of rappers will tell you, I wrote other people's raps down to figure out the structure
Oh, there you
and
go.
the
Yeah.
bars. Or
Yeah, yeah.
Same kind of thing. And that leads me to my next question. What you just said leads me to my next question, brother. What was your first, as knowing and doing all the work that you had done prior, right, in preparing to be a writer?
Yeah.
What was your first break that made you feel like? What was the project that you worked on that made you feel like, okay, I'm doing it?
Oh wow. Probably after I got. Wow, that's great. And because there's all along the way, fortunately, there were little little Easter eggs, little things that were like, oh, okay, good.
A little Easter egg.
when like I was like in middle school, and I wrote like I had a comic strip, and people were like, "Oh, that's pretty funny."
Mhm.
And then I was
So
in high school.
You drew the comic strip too?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it was fun. I could.
So you can illustrate
It's
and
another
write.
one of those things. If you don't care if the first couple of times you do it, it's going to be terrible, then you're good to go, right? You just get over that hump of like of just embarrassment.
Mhm.
And then you get to this point where like, oh, that looks pretty good. And then you just keep building on that.
Mhm.
So I had a comic strip. And then I started doing plays, writing plays when I was in high school. I wrote short stories when I was in high school. And they got published, and that was kind of cool. People would, come up to me and talk about it. When I was in college, got into film school on a film that I made in high school. And in college, got to do a lot of that, and did stand up while I was there and wrote a lot and got more stories published. So when I got out here, the real thing when I thought, okay, well, this is no longer a game, was I got a job. I actually wrote a bunch of spec scripts, just cheers, just this episode didn't really exist, but I just wanted to show everybody I could write cheers. So I wrote it. I was a production assistant at the CBS Radford Studios in Studio City.
Wow.
And I bribed the Xerox guy to look away, for like an hour, and I Xeroxed 100 copies of my script. And then everywhere I went, every office, I just make sure they had a copy of my script. And people started taking them home. And eventually, people, I heard there were two guys at lunch. They both had shows that just got picked up, and they both said, "Hey, the supply guy's pretty funny. I think I'm going to hire him on my show." And from that, in my little supply shack, I started getting calls, because they said, "Hey, I want to hire you on my show. Do you have an agent?" I was like, "No, I don't have an agent." They said, "Okay, well, great. Well, now you do, because my agent's going to call you."
Now you do.
Right? So I get 2 calls from each of their agents, because they said, one guy said, "I'm going to hire him." The other guy said, "No, not over my dead body. I'm going to get him first." Right? So there was like a hunger, like, okay, 2 guys wanted me, 2 agents wanted me. And then a third and a fourth person called, and they were like, "Who are you? Why are you in play? Why are we hearing about you? You just come from nowhere." And
I got all the paper clips, duh.
yeah, exactly. It's like, hey, I got paper clips and specs, whatever. I'm delivering. I would deliver like what is Diet Coke, and I would say, "Here's a Diet Coke in my script. Both are equally refreshing." Right? And so when stuff started happening, it was like it started happening really fast.
Yeah.
And that's when I said, "Okay, great. I think my writing has gotten me to a good place,
Right.
and my hustle has gotten me to a better place."
Right.
And so if I can maintain both of those things, I think I'll be all right. Yeah. And I was 20 years old.
Okay.
I wound up in the Guild before I was 21.
You know what's amazing? I'm listening to what he's saying. And yes, through the filter and the lens of writing, one could, say, "Oh, this show isn't for me." He's talking about writing for television. I might not be. But the profundity in what he's saying,
Oh my God.
applies across
Everything.
genres, everything,
Yeah.
across skill sets.
Yeah.
Like, to throw back to what you said in the beginning, when you talked about making the mistake, right? Failing horribly.
Yeah.
And then learning from it.
And then not taking it personally. Just
Not
saying,
taking
like, forgiving yourself, whatever. Or you could just, you can go, beat yourself up for 10 seconds.
You can literally apply that
To
To
everything.
to your
anything.
relationships with your
Absolutely.
family,
To anything,
Yes.
yeah.
to relationships with people,
Yeah.
friends,
Yep.
business. Like that is the format or the formula for life in a lot of ways.
Oh, absolutely.
And he applied it to writing.
Right.
Yeah.
Or,
And
get,
life.
or
No,
getting,
yeah, fear-
getting
fear of failure
building
just-
a career for himself.
Yeah.
Come on,
Yeah,
man.
brother
fear
said
of
he
failure
was
genius.
drives all. Everybody who hasn't done stuff is just sitting there in a pool of fear,
Yes, sir.
and
Yes.
and if you can get around that, you don't
Yeah.
need to get through that or whatever. Just get around that.
Yeah, man.
It's going to be there. It's like the courage is not the absence of fear,
Yeah.
right? Nobody goes in and does anything courageous
It's feeling
and
the fear
doesn't
and doing
feel
it anyway.
like. But that's that's like being a sociopath.
Courage
you
is
always
just
have fear.
yeah.
And then you
Courage
just
is the
say-
bully courage is standing up to the bully.
Bingo.
That's what
Exactly.
that is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Knowing that the bully is probably gonna,
The bully is there, but guess
Whoop
what?
your ass.
He's gonna throw some elbows.
Right.
You may not survive the altercation,
But-
hey, you know what you're getting into. If you survive it,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
the
love
world
that.
is yours, right?
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, Rob, you have an agent. You say you're 20 years old, 21 years old, 20 years old, 21 years old. You have an agent now. People have your scripts. They're floating around the industry. Your name is being sought after. There's a buzz going on. What was the job that solidified Rob Edwards as the writer
What's the
to
breakthrough?
world?
Oh man,
Like he's the
That
guy.
was-
Get him.
Yeah. Weird. It was strange because I was working on. Out on. Let's see. I worked on Full House, where I was not the
Wow.
man.
Never
But-
heard of it.
I was the only. I was a kid, so I was the only person that everybody else didn't hate. So I got to run the room. So I got to, kind of
ran the writers' room for Full
ran
House.
the writers' room for Full House. When I
Wow.
was
That's
22.
crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, 22 years old. And then Different World. I worked on that.
Mhm.
Never
That
heard
was that was a lot of fun because I was like,
Yo,
I was
these are
fresh out
all
of
the
college.
shows that when we were kids.
Yeah, right, exactly.
This is what
Exactly.
we're watching.
I read
Full
everybody.
House, Different World.
Yeah.
Keep
Right.
going.
Oh yeah. I think let's see. Around the time I got In Living Color, that was hilarious because I think it was Keenan's first interview
Mhm.
on that thing, and I was like, "Why don't you do this? Why don't you do this?" And we just made up the show during the meeting. That was fun because he was like, "Okay,
hold on, rewind. You going too fast. I want to stop you at a different world, but so wait. What do you mean you made up the show, brother?
In Living Color, yeah, because we were because Keenan had gotten Keenan, well, the Wayans family, right? They had been they had this love-hate relationship with Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, well, this is going to be a show with all this one black person on Saturday Night Live. This is going to be all those one black people. And and we're going to do Saturday Night Live. And we were like, okay, well, what is that?
What does that look like?
And we said, well, once again, are we gonna have the guts to take on the Giants? Are we gonna do Mike Tyson? Are we gonna do Arsenio Hall? Are we gonna do Reverend Farrakhan?
They did it all.
and we were like, if we don't, then it's malpractice.
Wow.
We have to. I mean, the whole thing about comedy, right, is take down the Giants. Don't punch down. You don't want to do the
Punch up.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
punch up. So everybody powerful. We're taking down everybody.
Yo,
powerful.
the Farrakhan on the spaceship.
Oh, my God.
Episode.
My brother.
The Wrath of Farrakhan.
My
Wrath of
Asian brother. My Nubian sister.
was genius. It was so much fun and to watch it because the best thing about it, two things. One was the executives never got it. The white executives never got it. It was supposed to be an hour-long series. In a series, and they said no. They wouldn't. They started seeing the material. They were like, this isn't funny, and so they made it a half-hour series, and then they made it an hour pilot, and then they made it a half-hour pilot. So all we got to shoot was a half hour's worth of material. We shot an hour, but we were supposed to shoot a half hour's worth of material. And the executives were like, okay, well, it's nice knowing you. Whatever. This is terrible. The audience comes in. Damon comes out as Farrakhan. My Nubian, whatever he does his thing.
My sister.
And the audience, it's an all-black audience, and they didn't just laugh, they exploded.
Right.
It was like church laughter. They were running up and down the aisles, high-fiving, stomping their feet. It was crazy. And the executives turned to me, because I'm coming off of, sitcoms and stuff like that. I was like, whatever. And they said, oh, you paid them to do that. I said, no. This is black folk enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
This is black people smiling.
Right.
It was like this is cathartic for us.
Yeah.
It's nothing to you because you don't know these people that we're talking about, and you don't get the references. My Nubian, it means nothing to you.
Right.
But it means a whole lot to us, and
Right.
we have been waiting for this moment. And off we went. What was it? Mike Tyson on Love Connection. That was another huge
Crazy.
I
remember that one.
and black moments in history and stuff like that.
Oh,
We just
yeah.
went one after the other.
What was the penitentiary wordsmith?
Oh my
My
God!
Metamucil. This is like,
The expectorant of my lucidity. It was
Absolutely.
crazy.
Oh my God! Yeah, exactly. It was
Right.
so much fun. It was like one of those things where you can't stop writing. Like it was like, okay, well, we had to
wrote a song about it.
we
Like
had
to
to
hear
pick
it. Here you go.
yeah, right, exactly.
Right.
We're all of those stuff. Even the critics, the movie critics and stuff like that. We would
two
just
snaps and all
we
that
just
shit.
could not stop. Right, it was like go.
Right.
Right.
And
Wow.
just that atmosphere was just really, really wonderful. So it's like,
Did you guys recognize in real time the stars that? Because when you look back from Jamie Foxx, Tommy Davis,
Jeez.
Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey.
J
J-Lo.
Lo, fucking. I mean, and so many people
Yeah.
actually became like household names.
Sean.
Sean,
Come on.
Marlon,
Sean and Marlon.
all
Yeah.
these, all the Wayans, right?
Marlon was still, I think, in college.
Did you
at the
recognize that in
time.
real time though? Like you
No.
guys were like, hold on,
It was funny because at the audition, because we auditioned
David Allen
everybody.
Greer.
damn it,
David
Allen
Allen
We
Greer.
auditioned everybody at the
David
Laugh
Allen.
Factory, and it was all like Keenan's friends.
Yeah.
You know, and so everybody's like, "Oh, hey, you know, whatever." They all got up and did a quick set, and everybody was funny. I mean, there were some people that didn't get on the show that were really funny. I mean, it's just like it's one of those categories where there is such a logjam that we had to leave some people,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
behind.
Yeah.
You know, Jim Carrey at the time was like, you know, interesting. He couldn't get arrested, right? He had done Doing Time on Maple Drive. He had done The Duck Factory.
Mhm.
You know, some stuff. That was a time when he had written the check for himself,
Right.
and was yelling
Manifesting.
At the waves.
Yeah.
manifesting it, and then he came in. It was like, wow, okay, this guy is going for it. You know, he really commits. That's the thing. As a writer, you're looking at like, okay, we can write anything for this guy. This guy will commit,
And he'll
to
get it done.
You know, with
Venus de
Damon,
Milo.
with Damon and Keenan, they had a repertoire of like they could do anybody at any time,
Right.
and they would just most of the shows were like they would go out to dinner. The Wayans family is I don't know how they got all that talent, but they were just like whatever they ate, whatever was in the DNA. But they would sit at the dinner table and just crack on each other. And then they would come in on Monday and would say, "Here's what we did at the dinner table."
Let's go.
And they would just start working off each other. And you say, "Oh, okay, great. Yeah, give us some time. Let's write that down." And it would be like rock, paper, scissors. Who's going to write this?
Right.
And then we'd write it up and set it to the stage and costumes and whatever, and we'd go. But that family. I mean, a lot of times, like with Mike Tyson, I think it was, they knew. Whoever does Mike Tyson is probably going to hear from Mike Tyson.
Gonna hear from him. Yeah. Mike is gonna show
So
up.
if it's Damon, you know, whatever. It was like, and it was rock, paper, scissors between the two of them. I think, Keenan wound up doing it.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, we knew. And then Tyson was great.
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh man, that was really funny. You know, can I come on the show?" It was like that kind of thing. So, yeah, it was. I mean, with all of that stuff, you know, Arsenio Hall and the big hands.
With the big hands.
You know?
Chunky A.
Yeah, right.
My
Play me some of that
God.
boogie
Huge
note
finger
funk.
and the ass, you know.
Right.
It's like, you know.
When he had the
everybody
mayor
thought it-
of DC on there.
Yes.
And he was out and he was like, "No, this is not, I'm trying to run for re-election."
Oh my God. Yeah,
It was
yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah, no, but you're like, you got to get skewered. You know, why should we leave ourselves alone?
Marion
Right.
Barry.
Right. I love it.
Marion
So
Barry.
from Living Color, Rob, where did Fresh Prince of Bel-Air come in?
Oh man, Fresh Prince was one of those things where like when it first went around, I think everybody, and you look at it now and you think of how absurd.
And was that before In Living Color or after?
It was. Oof,
I feel like
everything
it
was
after.
around that same time. Yeah, I think it was after.
It was
I think it was
after.
after.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
because I did that. I think I did that immediately after like Different World,
Mhm.
and I was just it was like, okay, let's do something fun, something original,
Mhm.
and and then Fresh Prince comes around, and this is how crazy it was, the times and just how the industry works.
Mhm.
But the way it went around was this rapper wants to do a show. And everybody said,
rapper.
this rapper wants to do a show. And everybody's like, oh, it's a rapper. He's going to shoot me.
Mhm.
You know, that was the whole thing. It's like, oh, he's whatever.
Damn.
And I was like, no. Will Smith is not that kind of rapper.
Right.
Will Smith is a different kind of rapper. He raps
Once again,
about,
a cultural disconnect.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. He raps about, doing 90 in his mom's new Porsche.
Right.
You know, that is not that is not
not
street
right.
rap. So, but that was all anybody knew of him was like, oh, he's a thing. And so a lot of people didn't want to touch the show.
Mhm.
The Borowitzes, they had to convince to create the show,
Mhm.
and they were looking for writers, And I came in and I was like, okay, good. I get both sides of this. Dad's a doctor, so I understood that side, the Carlton side of it, and I understood the Will side of it.
Mhm.
And I thought, okay, this is a great opportunity to do some really good work.
Right.
And it was once again strange when nobody knew who Will Smith was,
Mhm.
and I saw the tape. It was an 18-minute presentation. They wouldn't even spend the money for the pilot, for an actual pilot. They shot a presentation, 18 minutes. Most of them are like 27.
That broke down the synopsis
whole
of the
thing.
idea.
Right.
Yeah, and so it was on the sets for one of their soap operas. It was like Bold and Beautiful sets.
Mhm.
And so some people who watched Bold and Beautiful were like, well, wait a minute, that's the living room from from the Bold and Beautiful because they didn't want to build sets.
Wow.
So they just set it up. They shot the show, and that's what went around. And I said, Will Smith is a talented guy. He seems,
Right.
you know, I think this guy can be somebody that you write for.
Right.
And Alfonso Ribero's is, you know, amazing.
Come on.
You know, James Avery was great.
My
You know,
God.
Janet Hubert Whitten at the
Yeah.
time was like, you know, she won a Tony on Broadway for Cats. And
That was the chocolate ant there.
Yes, exactly.
Boy.
Yes.
The original and
Yes.
Boy.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Boy.
I
She
mean,
was
I mean,
delicious.
I like both, but I tell you,
She
no,
was delicious.
yeah, no joke. You know,
Yo.
Janet Hubert Whitten was fly.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yes.
She was just amazing and just so intelligent and beautiful, and she carried herself
the
so well.
chocolate on Viv is
The
crazy.
chocolate on Viv, man. She was-
Man.
and that was important too. Like, I was like, yeah, you know, represent darkness.
Come on, man.
know?
Right.
Yeah.
Darkness is beautiful. Darkness,
She was
everyone.
refined. She was-
Darkness.
she was
we
fine
had
as
this,
hell,
and when
refined.
we get into something else, we will talk about the importance of that as we go. My Disney career, but but yeah. So with all that talent, I thought, okay, this is going to be fun to write for because really, what you want to do is put good words in the mouths of really good actors. If you are putting good words in the mouths of bad actors, it's just gonna
It's gonna fall
it's gonna
flat.
make you look bad.
Yeah.
Right. And so that was fun. So anything we could think of, they could do. And Andy Borowitz is a quick joke writer, and so am I. And so on top of it, the Will Smith and Alfonso Ribeiro were like, they would see the lines, memorize the lines. That was it. And they had a bet. They had a standing bet. That's why, like, sometimes in the end credits, you'll see them kind of busting up on each other. If any of them went up on a line, they owed the other one money. So they would come in, and that was not typical of especially black shows where you know, just people would show up. And those guys were pros. They
Loving
hit
it.
their marks, and they knew their
Loving it.
lines. And so if a joke didn't work during the show in front of the audience, we would go in. You know, we'd go in, reset, we'd play some music. You know, DJ Paul would get up on the ones and twos and do his thing, and the audience would just dance around. And Andy and I would go down to the set with new jokes, and we would sometimes give them like 6 new jokes. You know, almost half the scene.
Right.
And the fun of it was we would give Alfonso stuff. And then Will would say, "Hey, what are you telling him?" It's like, we're not going to tell you. You'll hear it. You'll hear it.
You'll
in front
hear
of
it
the
when it
audience.
happens.
You'll
Right.
hear it when they hear it.
Right.
And so we'd say, like, okay, your lines are 1, 3, and 5. You say this. No matter what he says, you say this. No matter what he says, you say this. So what does that mean? It's like, you'll know. And then we'd go to Will and we'd say, okay, you have
Well, that's dope.
2, 4, and 6. You know, so he says that. Whatever he says, you say this, and you say this, and you say this. This is, oh, is that a thing? And you would see them in live. It's great to see, because they would get in the moment. They would get like, oh,
They would break a little.
They'd get the shot, and then they'd go like, here we go,
Right.
oh, and then they would land the other one, and then the other one would go, ah,
Yeah.
now I know, and then
Right.
they would just rifle back and forth with each other, and it was just so much fun, and we just have a ball doing it, and so yeah, so that was man, that was one of the best shows I ever worked on, you know, because the Borowitzes themselves, they had come from Harvard, the Harvard Lampoon, and they had a couple of writers on staff from the Harvard Lampoon. So everybody had been working, writing jokes since college.
Right.
And then on top of that, there were like a handful of black writers. There was Benny Boom Richburg, who was a friend of Will's from Philly. There was Sam Hart Williams, who recently passed, but who was just a great playwright. And me. And we would just, we just had a ball telling stories. It was so much fun. Yeah.
Kron, I hate to break this up, but how are your cigars smoking? Because this one is ridiculous.
Yeah, and
Like it?
The man, Manischewitz. I'm gonna have to revisit the Cavalier.
Yeah, circle
You
is
know,
excellent.
I'm starting to really like Honduran. You know,
Habano.
you see the Placentia 146. They discontinued that. Now they got the 149.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm starting. What is that? The Aliados.
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 I
This
love
is
those.
like in that lane,
Mhm.
and it's got a little complexity to it because I think there's some Dominican in there as well. But yo,
Cavalier makes incredible
This is
cigars.
Fantizzle. How's your cigar going?
Man, Byron it's actually the first time I ever had the 1850 number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say that I've not had a single cigar from this company that I didn't like.
Mm.
Just, I don't know, every cigar that Byron makes is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I
this
agree.
is
And Marvin,
Yeah.
you?
Well, this is one of my favorite cigars. So it's incredible. It's just very enjoyable.
First off, you
Thank
are
you.
of the bougie end of the high end of
No,
the
I'm
highest
not.
of the
I'm really
end.
not. No, I
Well,
smoke
a
every day.
cigar,
I'm just
by
saying.
its very nature,
Yes,
Right.
but
says you've got some time.
you'll never
Right.
see him
You've
smoke
got
a
some time on
$5
your hands.
smoke. You'll never
That's
see
not
him.
true.
Oh, good.
I've never seen it.
Oh, good.
Yeah, he said, "Oh, good."
Oh,
And
good.
I've
You're
never
right.
seen
it.
There's a
I've never
difference.
seen
a
it.
$5 smoke.
I've never seen him smoke.
Yeah,
a
we
five-
don't do $5.
No,
so-
no.
There is a difference.
So usually, whenever
there's a
Kron
difference.
is smoking something, it's
There's a difference.
something worth
It's good.
note, right? And then your cigar, how's it going?
Oh, this is great. This is great. I'm talking too much, so it keeps going out. But I'm having a ball.
Is
I'm
it
glad you
strong?
like
Having a ball. I'm playing catch up, all y'all. So.
No, it's good. I'm glad,
I'm
I'm
like,
glad
okay,
you
here
like
we
it.
go.
Yeah, man.
Just you know what? That's a
It
perfect
is
segue
delicious.
to my next question because I want to
Oh,
get
good.
back to the writing.
Oh.
But one thing that when Rob and I first met each other, and because we're working on a project together that we'll get into shortly.
Yeah.
But and I'm honored to work with him on this project. But when we first met and he came on to the project, I was already a producer on the project, and we brought Rob on as a writer, which was again an honor and a privilege for us. We clicked immediately in the world of cigars and the level of cigars.
Nice.
Like he's like, "Oh, you smoke cigars? Yeah, I smoke cigars. Okay, we're gonna have cigars." And I think we were at
Friends
Comic-Con
from
or
that
something.
moment.
Like that.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Like
Oh
instant-
yeah.
Instant camaraderie, instant conversation. Of course, the thing that we all love about cigars is
Isn't that
the
what it does?
relaxation,
It
the
just-
meditation, but also the good conversation.
Yeah.
that comes from
What
it.
is it?
And Rob was the first brother too. When he invited me to smoke, I'm gonna say this right now on camera. When he invited me to come smoke with him, this was after we had met and we were working together and we had smoked quite a few cigars together. He's like, "You got to come out with me. I do this thing every Thursday when I smoke at Buena Vista in Beverly Hills. You come,
Yep.
come, and I'm like, "Oh, this is awesome. This is great. Let's go. Let's do it." He's like, "Okay, but before you come, I gotta let you know, wear a suit."
One of them places. I
Yeah, and I
understand.
was
Yes,
like,
one of them
"What?"
places.
And I'm serious. And I'm like, "Okay." And I put on a suit.
That's easy to
and
do.
went
Let's
down.
do
It was
it.
easy to
Yes.
do. It was easy to do.
Let's get
Mhm.
suited and booted. Let's
I don't
go.
think I had done it that much at the time in my cigar smoking journey. And I
Yeah.
put on a suit and I went down and met Rob at the cigar lounge, and him and his good friend
Mhm.
were there waiting for me, and they were in very nice suits. And I showed up in my. It was a good suit.
It was
but
a good
their
suit.
suits were nicer than mine.
Wait, okay, way to play humble. I love it.
game.
Their suits were nicer than mine.
No.
But yours was nice.
Yeah, we sat up
Yes.
and we had great cigars, great conversation, great drinks, and it was a beautiful night. So my question to you, Rob, though, is when did you start smoking cigars, and what turned you on to the cigar thing?
Oh my goodness. Weirdly, my father smoked cigars.
Oh.
Okay.
And so every so often I would say like, I love the smell.
Mhm.
And I'd be like, "Oh, Dad, well, that's one day, whatever, I will smoke cigars like you." And so every so often he would say, "Okay, take a couple puffs of this and, just get used to it," and that kind of thing. So I had that, yeah. And this was like what, junior high school?
Wow.
So
Dad
when I
was
got
grooming
to-
you.
Yeah, no, Dad was great because Dad was also
Pops was a gangster.
Dad was also like, "This is what to drink,
Mm.
Don't do your drinking like outside the house.
Mm.
Don't be a fool and like all of a sudden like, oh, I can drink, and it's like you're drinking gallons of stuff you don't know.
Right.
So know what's good, know what's bad.
Instructions.
And like,
Yeah.
here it is. He'd water it down a little bit,
Mhm.
but he'd say, okay, this is scotch and this is whatever, here you go. And then my mother was very into wine.
Mhm.
And so she would do wine tastings.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And she brought me along in the wine world. So that was kind of fun.
Mm.
Yeah. So then when I was in college, and the guy we were smoking with was my college roommate,
Mhm.
and he knows his wines up and down. He's a chef.
Mhm.
He's great. The place we were at used to be coat and tie all the time,
Mhm.
and then they changed their they changed their dress code, and we were like, no, we're keeping this.
Right.
Because
Right.
there's like, you're wearing a suit, you smoking a cigar, you feel like $1 million.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
man.
A
Amen.
suit is armor.
Yes.
It
Right.
is wonderful. They are designed to just make you look fantastic.
Mhm.
And you walk around, you're like, yes, I am the king. Thank you very much.
Yes,
Right.
indeed.
And you're smoking a cigar. Cigar basically means, I have an hour to kill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I have an hour to kill.
And
I'm
money
on
to
nobody's-
burn.
And money to
I'm on
burn.
nobody-
Money to burn.
Yeah.
I'm on nobody's clock. Yes, exactly. And I'm going to burn some, some wonderfulness. So that's why like a $5 cigar doesn't make any sense.
No.
It's like if you're going to take an hour of your time,
Amen.
enjoy yourself with
Come
a
on.
good glass of wine, a good glass of something,
Mhm.
whatever it is.
Mhm.
Just it's a vacation.
It
It's
is.
and
Mhm.
it's and I hate to say, but it's like it's the it's almost a lost gentlemanly art.
Right.
Is just like a finely tailored suit, a quality cigar, good drink.
So take us through the process.
Oh,
What is your favorite combination, cigar and drink, for your hour vacation?
ooh,
And he was the person that I ever heard refer to cigar smoking that way.
Yeah.
Like I think when we first started smoking,
Hour-long
we were talking about
vacation.
it,
I
and
love
he, and
that.
he was saying, no, he was like, I think you said, because he's naturally funny, as you can tell, right?
Mhm.
And he said, yeah, well, Marvin, cigars is the cheapest vacation that you can have.
Mhm.
He's like,
Exactly.
but it's a straight vacation.
Yeah.
Like, and I always
Depends
tell
on what
people
you're
that.
smoking, but
I
yeah.
use that
'Cause
all
you're
the
not-
time in
You're
conversation.
not like just like, oh, I'm going to run around. I'm going to go to the mall and smoke a cigar.
No, you're going to sit
Right?
down.
Yeah, you're going to sit
relax.
down. You're going to probably have a nice conversation.
Mhm.
There is a nice, a slight buzz you get, whatever.
Yeah.
It relaxes you,
Mhm.
and you're going to have a good time. So enjoy it.
So your
sit back
cigar and your
enjoy it.
drink.
So cigars now it's an Arturo Fuente Double Chateau.
Yeah, I told you.
That is my
I love
thing.
Arturo
That's my
too.
jam. Yeah,
Shout out
Come on.
Fuente.
Eye of
they're
the shark
super
for me.
smooth. Oh, man alive.
Come on,
Man
man.
alive. Yes. Good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And they're just rock solid. Every single stick is
Construction.
amazing.
Flavor.
I've never had a bad one. 30 years 30 years in that place smoking.
Yeah.
Right.
Never had a bad one. The drink of choice is actually Belvedere. I'll have I like the subtlety of a Belvedere with a cigar.
Mhm.
Just straight up vodka with like a twist or something. The crispness of it against a cigar is really good for me.
Mhm.
Away from that, I would go Macallan. I'd get
Mm-hmm.
a glass Macallan.
Mhm.
I like the 12. In that way, it's like there's a 12, there's 21. They go up from
Yeah.
there.
Right.
But the 12 is just like it's solid.
Right.
You don't need to go above that.
Mhm.
If I'm drinking a wine, I like Bordeaux's.
Mhm.
I like specifically left bank Bordeaux's, which are Cabernet
Mhm.
Sauvignon dominant. I love wine, love wine.
Mhm.
I took I've gotten kind of certified in wine just
Mhm.
because I didn't want to. That terrible feeling you get. And once again, you get that you have the fear thing, and then you overcome it. But you're always sitting there with a wine list, going like, I have no idea.
What is
Hey,
this? Right.
Excuse me, sommelier, could you help me out?
Mhm.
Give a brother a break. And I just wanted to be able to not have that fear factor when I sat down to read a wine list. Could I actually read a wine list with some confidence and know what I was going to order
Right.
and know like how I was going to pair it with the meal and all that kind of stuff?
Mm.
And that's just like today I want to be a little less ignorant than I was yesterday.
Yeah.
And so now I can pretty much pick up a bottle, tell by the year and where it's from and all that stuff, what it's going to taste
Yeah,
like.
so put
if
that
it's gonna
wine
be
back.
good.
We're not serving this.
We're not
no
serving
wine.
that. Yeah,
We're
we
not
just-
serving wine. I'm just sitting
This
there
man is a
staring at these
sommelier. We not
staring at these unopened bottles of wine.
Right.
I'm like, oh.
And Marvin, you're
killing
two.
me.
What are you pairing?
With cigars? Or
Yeah,
right now,
with cigars.
In general.
Like your
Yeah,
favorite
yeah.
little
my thing is coffee, man.
coffee.
I'm like traditional in that way. I don't drink a lot.
Why coffee?
I don't know. It's something
Well,
about
it does blend. The flavors are
Yeah, it
very
brings
similar.
the
The
flavor,
nuttiness
the-
of
the-
the cigar, I can see that. I
Yeah,
can see
it
that.
brings out the cigar, brings out the coffee. I kind of like, because the tobacco naturally just kind of slows you down, the heart rate down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that the coffee kind of balances that out, picks it back up a little bit.
Mhm.
I just like it, man. So
Yeah.
I like, sparkling water too. If we're talking about like a libation of sorts,
Clean
I do
your
like,
palate.
Yeah, clean your palate. I
Mhm.
do like Japanese whiskey when I do drink.
Ooh,
I like Japanese.
they came
whiskey.
out of nowhere.
What is it?
They came out of nowhere. And
Japanese?
then everything now,
Is
is
Japanese, yeah.
Japanese whiskey.
Yeah, I
like
know.
you cannot, you
I know.
cannot avoid it.
What
It's
is that?
really good.
Hibiki?
Hibiki, yeah.
Yeah.
Hibiki, Hibiki
Absolutely.
is really good. It's
Yeah.
really,
Suntory.
really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so when it is,
Where were they like 10 years ago?
Perfecting the art of
No,
whiskey.
exactly.
Yeah.
Perfecting it. There was
Yeah.
somewhere
quietly, lying in the cut.
It's been 1,000 years. I guess we'll come out this
Here we
year.
go.
That's how Japan does everything, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they didn't invent the video game, but
Yeah.
they didn't invent the car, but you can
car.
drive a Honda for
Yeah.
300,000 miles.
300,000. You
They
understand me?
didn't invent denim, but
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was all about transistor radios
Japanese
before
selfish
that.
denim is the
Right.
best denim.
Yeah.
Right. So
And
that's
and your
Biggest
combo?
companies in the world.
My combo, I own a coffee shop, tobacco, cotton, and coffee grow very well in similar regions.
Mm-hmm.
So coffee and tobacco, to me, are just hand in hand.
Hand in hand.
Yeah, they're just hand in hand.
Got it.
As a crop from the ground up, from the soil, the way they're grown, to the notes in tobacco and coffee are very similar. The process of curing the tobacco and
Right.
from a berry to grinding the
Right.
coffees, it's a very similar process in both of them. The climates they grow in, and then the notes,
Yeah.
very very similar. So
Yeah.
I love
And you
coffee.
know me well enough. What would be my favorite combo?
Crushed ice, Sprite, and
Dr. Pepper?
Dr. Pepper.
Dr.
Every time I see it,
Great behind.
Dr.
Every
Pepper.
now,
That's
every
right.
now and then I have a cream soda or something.
Every now and again.
I don't
Oh,
drink
man.
at all.
Yeah. I don't drink either. So,
Oh, see?
yeah.
Yeah.
See, guys, I was going to recommend a port or something like that. Like
Nah.
a sweet
Dr.
port.
Pepper,
Dr.
23 flavors in Dr. Pepper.
Right, yeah, all in one. The doctor's
Yeah,
in.
man.
Yeah.
This is great. This is
Okay.
great.
So Rob,
Yes.
different world. We started Full House, different world, Living Color, Fresh Prince. You've been a part of
Iconic.
some very iconic and game changing shows for the art form of television and sitcom, and not just the art form of television and sitcom, but also the Black art form
Mm-hmm.
of
Yeah.
television and sitcom. After doing that and having that level of success, where did you take it? Take us through the journey after that.
Yeah. Well, I was working on, I had created Out All Night with Patti LaBelle.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that.
Sheesh.
It's fun stuff because it was like, okay, because
Nice.
after Fresh Prince, like people were asking me, what did I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, because I worked on the pilot for Martin,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd worked on a bunch of other things that happened around that time where there was an explosion. And everybody's like, "Hey, what do you want to do?" And I was like, "Oh, Black Cheers. I want to do a show in a bar, just showing us being us."
Mm-hmm.
And if there was some kind of entrepreneurial thing or some each one reach run,
Mhm.
something positive,
Mhm.
just to say. And I had a pilot at NBC, and they call me up and they say, "Well, hey, Rob, could you do us a solid? That we have this deal with Patti LaBelle, and Patti LaBelle had what was called I think it was a put series. I don't know if you've ever heard, but it was like they had her under contract,
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh,
they had to make a show for
for
her.
her.
And if they didn't, they'd have to pay her anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, "Hey, Rob, can you go talk to Patty? If you can get Patty in your show, you're picked up for a season.
Mm-hmm.
Automatic. If you don't, you can refuse, but we're going to consider that you didn't play ball when we asked you. Whatever. You're not family.
So
got
something you
blackmailed
can't
into writing.
refuse
Yes, exactly.
in a polite way.
They made me an offer. Couldn't refuse. Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, great. Let's go. So I do my research on her, and I find out, oh, great. Her husband is her husband's last name is Edwards. Her actual name is Patty Edwards. I was like, okay, great, fam. I got that going for me. I got my pitch
Auntie,
already.
That's Auntie Patty, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm Patty. So I go over, and she's absolutely that. She's basically like, yeah, she's always cooking for you. She's always.
Did she
she's
give you a
just like-
sweet potato pie right out the
Oh,
gate? or
man, I
what?
didn't get any sweet potato pie. I got everything else. She also makes everything that she makes at that level. Her fried chicken, you'll never have better fried chicken.
Mm.
Her macaroni and cheese, you'll never have better macaroni and cheese. She's an artist. Greens, everything. She's like amazing.
Right.
Amazing. Like you've had some good, but you've never had Patty good.
Right.
So
You've never had Patty good.
No, she's just got magic fingers. So
Mhm.
so I go in and I give my pitch, and I'm like, hey, it's a show about this and this, whatever, and it's about you, blah 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 blah. And I'm giving my network pitch,
Mhm.
and for a while she's just kind of staring at me. I'm like, oh no, I've blown this whole thing.
Jeez.
So I stop. I say, oh, and that's out all night, and she's just, what do I wear? And I said, oh, Patty, you're wearing the finest designer. You're Patty LaBelle. Everybody, the designers come to you. They design the best clothes, whatever, and then they, you never leave the house, with anything that's not, going to make the cover of all the magazines and that kind of thing. And she turns to me and she goes, I like this show.
Okay.
So it was like, okay, Rob, yeah, you got Patty on the show, and great. And so, yeah. So we did that. That was a ball. Morris Chestnut, who had just done Boys in the Hood, was not funny in his first audition. I would tell actors, like, he was not funny at all.
Mm.
And then I was like, how is he not funny? It was like I thought he could do whatever. And we were looking around for actors to play against Dwayne Martin, who was really funny.
Mhm.
And just a straight man. And so I'm watching the MTV Rock and Jock basketball game, and he was really, really funny on their MTV Rock and Jock. So I called his agent. I said, have him come back in,
Right.
because I don't know why he was funny there. He was not funny here. And he says, why did you call me back? He says, I wasn't funny. I said, you don't need to be funny. You just need to react off of this other guy.
Right.
You need to be Dean Martin. He's going to be
Dean Martin.
Jerry Lewis.
Jerry Lewis.
Somebody's got to be Dean.
Yep.
Straight man, just be a good straight man. Just be you and react the way you would if somebody crazy was coming up, and doing stuff.
Right.
And so that was that. And then Vivica Fox had done Fresh Prince, and she'd done this other pilot I did with Don Cheadle that never got picked up. How do you not pick up a show with Don Cheadle? I don't know. But
It happened.
but she was go-to, like, okay, great. I need, Vivica, you got a part. Don't worry about it. You're not going to audition or anything like that. Just come in and say the lines, whatever. You're great.
Right.
And Taj Mahari, all these people came in, and that was out all night. We had a ball with that.
And that was a great show.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then I think after that was doing LL Cool J's show.
Wow.
Yeah. And I brought in Alfonso Ribeiro, and I amped up Kim Wayans' part because I worked with her on In Living Color. And then after that, I was like, I've now done this show too many times.
Wait,
the
but-
couch.
That young lady in that LL Cool J show, beautiful sister. Mia,
Mm-hmm.
was it Maya Campbell?
Yeah, right. Yeah, Maya Campbell.
My
Maya
goodness.
Campbell is just amazing. Yeah,
Sheesh.
just amazing. She was one of those, like, you talk
Zoe
about. Like,
remembers all of the ladies.
yeah, exactly.
No,
Well, we
but
haven't had the
Chocolate
Karen-
on Vivian.
Listen,
Maya Campbell,
when we
let
were
me tell you
young-
something,
We haven't had a
man.
Karen Parsons conversation yet.
right. When we were young, be honest
I don't
though.
remember this. I'm like,
Marvin,
damn,
be
I don't
honest.
remember this.
Be honest,
came with the
Marvin.
government.
When we were
LL,
young.
I was working with LL at that time too when he was doing.
Come on, man.
In the house.
Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah, I
When
was
we
working
were
with him.
young,
Maya,
we were
if
looking
you're
at these
around,
ladies.
Zoe Williams would like to
That's
speak
crazy.
to you.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
so-
just saying,
Right, right.
we remember.
while Zoe's in the state of reminiscing of all of his bedroom wall.
Here we go.
Exactly.
Had the right-on poster of Maya.
The right-on
Right
poster.
So Rob, you've done all these great shows, shows that are just important to the culture, and important to television, and the world of sitcom, but also to Black people. How were you able to, when in that era, I imagine there was not a lot of Black writers in the position that you're in with
Yeah,
the
no.
networks, right? Because all these shows were like NBC,
Yeah.
like major networks,
Come
right?
on.
Yeah.
How did you translate that to the networks? Our lifestyle, our culture, our sensibility of humor,
Yeah.
like all those things.
Well, after a while, it's interesting because a lot of times, like, there were some Black writers who were just getting their starts on these shows. I'll tell one story, and then I'll tell a
please.
second story. There was when we were doing Out All Night, there was I could not find Black writers. I could not find them at all. I was at a barbershop and, just bemoaning the fact that I couldn't find anybody. In the corner is a guy telling jokes. And he's telling stories about himself. And it was really, it had everybody rolling in the barbershop. Nobody else was getting a cut. I was getting a cut. And so I walk up to him and I said, look, I don't want to talk you out of being a doctor or a lawyer, but if you are considering writing, I can give you a job right now. And I said, they're going to ask me if I've read your writing, so just write your name on a piece of paper and show it to me. And I'll say like, okay,
Wow.
I read his writing and whatever. I called him. I said, I hooked him up with an agent and all that kind of stuff. And that was Devon Shepard, who's who went on to do Weeds and whatever he's doing.
Wow.
All kinds of stuff. He's an exec producer now in his own right.
Wow.
But that was the thing that the industry is not designed for us.
Right.
It's not designed to do our shows. When we were doing Fresh Prince, the executives didn't get it. The same as with In Living Color. They didn't get the show.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately for us, Brandon Tartikoff, who was the a Yaley, who was the head of NBC at the time, was he would sit down before and watch the dress rehearsals of all the shows. And when he would watch the Fresh Prince dress rehearsals, his daughter, Lily Tartikoff, would sit down next to him, and she would just sit there and enjoy the shows. She would ask him like, "Hey, when are you gonna show that the Fresh Prince show?" And he came to us and he said, "My daughter is keeping the show on the air." He says, "The only thing she wants to do with me."
Wow.
And so she would just sit there and enjoy it and whatever. I remember once she came to the set. And she's just dancing around on the set and stuff. And we were like, oh, we got to get that girl off the stage so we can shoot the show. And all the executives, we said, no, we are not touching that girl.
That's the boss's daughter.
That's the boss's daughter.
Right.
Lily Tartikoff can do whatever she wants on this thing. She is.
That's the executive producer, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
She can
yeah.
dance. She can do whatever. Let's make sure that she has a great time. But that's what happens, right? The voice of babes, right? The little kids, they live in a diverse world. The old people don't. But the world is getting more and more diverse every day. As more kids get born into a diverse world, they are pushing out. The older people, and so that's what you find is that kids are cool.
Right.
Kids get it. Kids see Will Smith and they see themselves.
Right.
Of whoever, whatever generation you are. So that show was universal. And I always find that, like, the more specific you get in your own culture, the more you can kind of take that, translate it to other cultures. And it has this wonderful resonance. So hopefully we as storytellers, music and whatever we do, we're ambassadors of our culture.
Right.
I think in music, though, I think some of the higher up executives, owners, or whatever, have a little bit more sensibility for the music. But even in my experience as an A&R person, you really had to sell whatever it was you were trying to bring to the label. Your A&R guy. They really didn't get it. But I've had, people like Freddie DeMann tell me, I say, Freddie, what do you think of this Jazzy Fat Nasty CD? And he goes, well, it doesn't matter what I think. That's what I pay you for.
Right.
So
That's good.
So
That's good.
you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
It's,
That's exactly
it's
it.
almost like they just can't hear it in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
And we're the ones that kind of have to push it and then translate it to them
Yes.
so they can put down the money for it.
They have to trust you,
Yeah.
and you have to be a good ambassador.
Oh, absolutely.
And you have to be trusted on both sides.
Yeah.
So the culture has to say like, oh, good, we are relaxed around you. We will, we will give you the performances that you're looking for.
Right.
And then on the other side, it's like, okay, trust me, just let me finish this,
Yeah.
and take it to you. Because sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes it's everybody's just freaking out.
Right.
I was on a project recently. I wrote and directed this movie called Sneaks. It's about to come out. And the producer, same kind of thing. The producer said, I didn't get it. I let my son read the script. And my son, like, this is the most amazing movie, And the guy was telling me the story as like he just didn't get it. He
Just didn't get it.
It wasn't in his language.
Right.
But his son, was very much into it. So yeah, that kind of thing. Hopefully that continues and we can tell our story.
I think
It reminds
I
me
think
of,
that never ceased to. I mean, I think that's always going to be the case. I think no matter the medium or the industry, right? Like
Mhm.
storytellers are all good storytellers are brilliant when they know how to contextualize the story that they're telling.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
whether it's, most of the time, like you said, we get older, responsibilities take over. You're too busy worrying about whether or not your bills are paid and your children are eating.
Yeah.
And so it's hard for you to recognize the nuances that would translate what the context is. But
Right.
when you're young, all you know is the context.
Right.
Yeah.
All you know is why you're doing what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's
Know who you're talking to, know who you're talking about.
yeah.
Right.
Right.
And be able to kind of sit on both sides of the fence, both sides of the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the Jacksons story.
Mm.
The Jacksons are older now. They're getting out of their contract with Motown.
Mm.
They lose Jermaine. He stays with Motown. They go to Epic. The guy signs them, but he signs them under the auspices of, oh, you mean the Kid Group? They're
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
They're
They're
over.
like the Osmonds.
They're finished.
Yeah.
So he doesn't hear it. They go in the studio. They write "Shake Your Body"
Oh, wow.
down to the ground.
Yeah, right.
They play it for him. He doesn't hear it. He's like,
Yeah.
"Mm." And then next thing
How
you
do you
know,
not?
it
Yes.
erupts
Mhm.
on radio. It goes everywhere.
Mhm.
And then he goes, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
But it's
You see
like,
a
wait a
whole
minute.
dance floor
This is
explode.
Michael Jackson and you can't hear it?
That
Right.
man had
Yeah.
never been to a disco.
Right.
Yeah, it was kind of like, I'll take a risk. It's-
Yeah, right. And that's a risk.
That's to them, that's a risk.
That's
But
a risk.
if you're talking to black people,
Yeah.
Michael Jackson in them?
And it's like
In them.
It's like,
Michael
yeah.
Jackson in them? Oh, of
Right.
course. Bring
Yeah.
him over.
Michael Jackson always pop.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you oh man. Yeah, no, it is nuts. And you would think whatever. I haven't lived a long life. It's like you think it's gonna change. It does not.
It doesn't
No,
change.
It's
No.
like
Never change.
every
Right.
year you deal with the same challenges.
Yeah.
Right.
And everything. Every year there's a new crowd of executives who are just like, what? What are you talking about?
What are you talking
Right.
about?
You know?
Right.
What is that?
You know?
So from that
I'll tell you,
perspective,
I
I'm
once
sorry.
went in. This is the worst story in that category. Reggie Hunlin, great director, and I
Reggie.
go in to I believe Sony Studios to a producer, and we had it was coming right off of Django Unchained, and we wanted to take either Jamie Foxx or somebody else and do a modern western.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, let's do a modern western, a little spin on it. Black folk against like rednecks and stuff. So
Right,
it's like, cowboys and Indians, but a little bit different.
Nat Turner. Let's go.
And- yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But modern day,
Yeah.
modern day in the in the prairie, and do the whole
Mhm.
thing like gangsters and rednecks, and they said, well, who's going to be in it? And at the time, Django Unchained that year was like, well, we got this kid Chadwick Boseman, and he's pretty good.
rest in peace.
And like,
Rest
yeah,
in
exactly.
peace.
Rest in power,
Yeah.
peace, Prince. And he was, and great guy, great performer, excellent. And they said, well, who else? And we said, oh, kid Michael B. Jordan. I think he
Wow.
could do it too. And they were like, I don't know.
What?
I don't know. And they had two objections. Like, first, none of these guys, whatever.
Wow.
You need somebody bigger.
Wow.
That would be
And-
great.
and-
Chadwick
and
and
second,
him in a
Chadwick
Western.
and Michael
second,
B.
that would've been
Wow.
And second, he said,
Crazy.
a guy looked me in the eye and he said, "Will a wide audience accept a black lead in an action movie?"
Mhm.
That was what he said,
Mhm.
and we were like, "Conversation's over." We, if you can't get past that,
Right.
then it's all uphill. We never made the movie,
Right.
and then a couple months later, Black Panther comes out and he's like, "Hey, can you get that kid Chadwick?"
Yeah, I
and I'm
bet.
like- I was
Yeah.
like, Chadwick's not answering my calls.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
come
that-
on.
that-
Like,
that-
Chadwick's
too late.
Chadwick now. He's
Right.
King Chadwick.
Yeah.
Right,
he's-
right.
King
Yeah.
T'Challa.
That's
Yeah.
King T'Challa.
Right,
Like,
right,
We
right.
do not do
he's-
that here.
He's
Of
booked solid.
Wakanda.
He's
Right.
booked solid for years. Michael
Yeah.
B. worry about. He's got a building.
Right.
Come
On
on.
the Amazon Studios.
Yeah,
lot,
he's got his own
Right.
stuff going on.
He's got his own stuff going now. So yeah, but that's always the battle. You
And that's
fight.
crazy because this is all after Low Down Dirty Shame.
Mhm.
Right,
Like,
right.
of course, a black guy can lead. And this
Right.
is after Action Jackson. Of
Yes,
course.
exactly. Shaft and all that stuff.
This is
Right.
after Blade.
After Blade.
Come
right?
on.
So Rob, I mean, that's incredible knowledge and a wealth of information you're sharing. My next question to you, brother, is so from all that experience, again, Fresh Prince, Living Color, Full House, In the House, um, Out All Night, like all these incredible things that you've been a part of, right? And first, I would say for television, right? They're like first, right? And Living Color is a first, you know what I mean? Fresh
Oh,
Prince
yeah.
is a first,
Yeah.
right? You also put together to me, which I, in my humble opinion, because this is before we ever worked together, because I didn't know that you wrote on all those things before we worked together, right? Because I just wasn't well versed in the writing of things like that at that time.
Yeah.
But you were a part of for a monstrous, you know, pillar in society, which is Disney,
Yes.
Wow.
right?
Yes.
You created for them the first Black princess in Princess and the Frog.
Knock it off. No, knock it off.
I'm not gonna. I'm gonna let you tell it, but you know, because I know that's something that you're most known for.
Yes.
Wow.
Right, and I mean, it's iconic. It has transcended many generations.
Oh, yeah.
How did that come about?
Oh, man. Well, that one, it's funny because the one thing that I always wanted to do when I was a kid, and I mentioned I had a comic strip and I would draw.
Right.
One of my heroes was Walt Disney himself, so I would animate, on weekends and stuff. And I always told my agent, like, if anything at Disney ever comes up, just put me up for it. I'll go. I'll take the meeting. I'll do whatever. Whatever. I want to write a Disney movie. And so I got to. They called me up and they said, "Hey, they got this thing, Treasure Planet, and they want to meet. They want to meet with writers." And I knew that, like, okay, there's not a Black person anywhere near Treasure Planet, but I wanted to write it. I wanted to be on that. There's two directors, Ron Clements and John Musker, who had done Little Mermaid and Aladdin and Hercules. They were fantastic. They were the top of the Disney people, and I thought, oh, great, if I can get in with those guys, I'm set. So they sent me at 6 p.m. They sent me a script on red paper. I don't know if they had this thing, but on red paper, so you can't Xerox it. And they sent it at 6 p.m. It was like after Kinko's had closed, so it couldn't get out. And I was supposed to meet with them at 10 the next morning. So I didn't sleep, watched every movie, read the actual book, all that stuff. I read, I watched, I think, 4 or 5 movies that night, and went in the next day, gave a TED talk on what they had done right and wrong and everything. And at the end of the meeting, I kind of just got up and walked out. And they're like, what are you doing? I was like, I think I killed it, so I'm just going home now. And so I went to the elevator. They chased me down the elevator, and they hired me the next day.
Wow.
On Treasure Planet. So I worked with those guys for like 4 years on Treasure Planet. I'm meeting them again, just to catch up. And they were like shell shocked. And I was like, what happened? So we just met with Oprah Winfrey, and she did not like our pass of the movie of Princess and the Frog. And they were like, oh, it was really terrible. She threatened to shut down the movie.
Wow.
And she said she would shut it down if they didn't hire a Black writer immediately, because it was that, that's what happens.
Right.
They make their own movies. They step on all the eggshells and everything like that. It's terrible.
Right.
So I said, okay, I'll tell you what. They pitched me the movie. And I said, I bet this is what she said. And I gave 4 notes. And they said, that's exactly what she said. What are we going to do? I said, you're going to hire me. I'll come in.
I'll clean it up.
I'll come in tomorrow.
Right.
Clean up your mess.
Good news,
and
ladies and gentlemen, I'm Black.
Right.
Yes, exactly. So
The Black man has arrived.
We're good to go there. And I said, I think I know the movie you want to make. And I said, nobody will take this more seriously than me. Nobody knows this world. No Black writer is going to come in here
The culture.
that has not worked with you guys for like 5 years on another movie. Nobody knows the Disney culture as much. Nobody's going to work as hard. Nobody has the skill set that I have, that I can bring to this. And I know what this movie can be. So let's start now, because we gotta, I'm gonna come in on weekends. We're just gonna work on this thing. And the rest of it was just kind of like going with my instincts, just really like, okay, everybody that I know is probably going to see this movie,
Yeah.
And if we do it right, it's going to be great for generations and generations.
Yeah.
Little girls are going to grow up seeing this movie, and and taking inspiration from it. Little boys probably, the same kind of thing.
Mhm.
And it will forever be Disney's first Black princess. And so
Yes.
that was the fun of it. And then when I first heard Anika Noni Rose, who plays Tiana,
Mm-hmm.
when I first heard her, and everybody auditioned for this thing. I'll say it right now, everybody. And I think it's gotten out, like everybody who could sing,
Mhm.
big sing. Think of the top 3 biggest Black singers. They all auditioned, and then Anika came in, and she just had this sweet, intelligent, wonderful voice.
Mm.
And I said, "This is the princess. This is the voice of this princess.
Right.
This woman I can write
Mhm.
to." And we just
Beautiful
sat
spirit,
down, and
too.
she was like, she's got to be left-handed, and I was like, yes, left-handed is be great, whatever. And she was like, she's got to be dark-skinned. I was like, absolutely,
Mhm.
dark-skinned sisters go, whatever. And like she can't have long hair. She's got to have whatever. She can't have the bun down here like white people do. She's got to have the bun up here,
Mhm.
Black folk. And when it's
That
loose, it's
high
gotta be,
bun.
it's
I
got-
love it. The
exactly,
high bun. Yes.
She's got to have a high bun. And and all the way through, she should carry herself like a princess. She
Mm.
is that person that she's a princess waiting to become a princess. And it shouldn't be about like, just getting to know the prince and whatever. I want to get married to that guy because he's a prince. He should earn her.
Mhm.
And and man, we just had a ball doing it. And then afterwards it was hilarious because people will come up to me now and they'll just women will come up to me, they'll say, I hear you did something that's very important to me. And I'll say, like, yeah, I wrote Princess and the Frog, and they'll burst into tears. It's that meaningful.
No, it's real.
They'll just burst into tears and say, you don't know what that movie
Have
did
you ever
for
had a chance to talk to Oprah Winfrey about the fact that she had some pushback on
Well-
it that's opened up the
I'll tell you, because the Oprah is plays Tiana's mother in the movie,
Mm.
and to get her to do that, I had to go to the Castle Montecito and pitch to her, and it was hilarious because I pitched the whole thing, and the night before was just panic night because Ron and John were actually supposed to pitch to her, and they came to me like at the end of the day, like 5:00 the day before we were supposed to do
Can
it.
you do it?
And they were like,
please?
yes. They were like,
She was like, she said she wanted a black person.
exactly.
You're up.
I was like,
You're
you
up.
can't just be sitting there. You gotta do this. I'm like, oh man, give me everything. I wrote my pitch, and then it was like 4:00 in the morning. I had this freak out, and I asked for more material. I go and I pitch in the movie, pitch. And I said, oh, and there's this song called Almost There, and she sings it. It's beautiful, and I move on. And Oprah says, there's a song. I was like, yeah, it's a musical. She says, will you sing it for me?
Mm.
And thank God, 4:00 in the morning, I thought, what is the biggest freak out thing that could happen to me? And I said, it's Oprah asking me to sing.
Right.
Wow.
And so I called the assistant. And I said, send me the lyrics to all the songs now. I got to memorize all these songs because I have this terrible feeling that Oprah's going
She's
to
gonna
ask
ask
me to
you.
sing.
Right.
Right. So the moment came, and all the executives now this is John Lasseter is there, and Ed Catmull, and all the executives from Disney are there.
Right.
In this room. I think I'm the only black person, and besides Oprah, her her hair person, her makeup person. That's her gang. And so I go, and they're freaking out, and I start singing,
Mhm.
and it was like, I'm a reasonable singer, and and everybody goes, oh, thank God, whatever.
Right,
She goes, oh, that's a beautiful song. And then we get through the whole thing, and and I'm like, oh, and then Raise and the Sky and blah 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 and all this stuff, and there's True Love, and I finished my pitch. It was like when I finished with Patti LaBelle, silence. I'm like, uh-oh, and I look over at her, and there's tissues everywhere, and she's just crying her eyes out,
Wow.
and she says, "This is
This
beautiful."
man made Oprah Winfrey cry from the
made her
sound
cry.
of his
Come
voice.
on,
Made
man.
Oprah
Come
Winfrey
on,
cry.
man. We gotta
Come
clap for that over there.
on.
Man.
Come
He made Oprah
on.
Winfrey cry.
You don't get your Alexander O'Neill voice having came in there and sang it, Teddy P.
Yes.
You know what's
So,
crazy?
yeah.
I have a 5-year-old granddaughter.
Mm.
Nuri.
Nuri, man. We
Nice.
watched The Princess and the Frog.
Yes.
Mhm.
That's
Okay.
one of her movies.
Mhm.
Oh, good.
Like, That's
Yes.
one of the, and you know, when they're young, they will watch a movie
So make sure you get a picture with
over
the
and
brother.
over
So you can be like,
and
"Look at
over and
Grandpa
over
knows."
again,
Yeah,
right?
no.
My daughter, she'll be 25 this year. She watched Princess and the Frog.
Yeah.
So, man,
Yeah.
you don't understand the impact because of the image.
He's like, no,
Oh,
I
yeah.
do.
We
I
never
do.
saw
I
a black
I made Oprah
princess.
cry. I know what I'm
Yeah.
doing.
I know what I'm
Yeah.
doing. Yeah, right. Exactly. Because by then, like, there is a thing, like, yeah, as you're learning, and we're talking about, like, okay, when I was in mid school, when I was in high school, whatever, college, and all that stuff, and growing this skill set, eventually, I'm not Michael Jordan, but like, Michael Jordan, when he puts up the ball, he expects for it to go in.
Absolutely.
It's like
Him
it's
and
like
Kobe.
3, 2, 1. Okay, it's
Bucket.
going in. It's
Yeah,
going in.
bucket.
Buckets.
It's safe to
And-
say
and at a
that you are
certain
the
point-
Michael Jordan of screenplays.
No, but
We
but
gonna say
I
it.
know that
Okay,
feeling.
we'll say it.
We'll say it.
You
But I
don't
know
have to
that,
say it.
I know that feeling of like, okay, I think this will work. I don't think there's anything more I can do to this project, with this project, that can make it any better than it is. I think that we have achieved what we wanted to achieve. And yeah, so when people come up and they say, "Oh, I've seen this movie 40 times," I'm like, I wrote it to be watched 40 times.
Wow.
That's
I know
crazy.
that every time you watch it, you're going to get another experience. You're going to have, even me, when I see it, I cry every time.
Wow.
Every time Ray dies, and there's certain things in there that as I was writing them, like I have this office that's along with all the other story artists, and I keep my door open. And there was this one day, everybody's just passing me by, and I'm just crying my eyes out. And they were like, "What's going on? What's going on? What do you know?" I was like, "You'll see." And I turn in the pages, and everybody comes in, and they go like, "What did you do?" Whatever. And it's a scene. There are two scenes. There's a scene when Ray, Tiana yells at Ray, and Ray says, she's just she's just speaking out of broken heart, because he's that full of love. And he says, "We're going to go show her the truth." And that's one scene where everybody cries. And then, of course, when when Ray dies, and when you pan up and you see the stars, and there's him and Evangeline, everybody cries. And yeah, and everybody came back holding the pages, tear-soaked pages, going like, "Okay, I know what I have to do now."
Right.
And that's the fun of it, right? It's everybody is passing things on to everybody else, and people are showing me like what they've done with the artistry of those moments, and saying, I think I've added something fun to it, and I would take it back, and I would say, "Ooh, I'll take that hand off. I'm going to make it even better." And then you're just like, then you're just having a ball with a thing. But that's, movie magic is not accidental. I mean, you don't just wake up and say, "Oh, oops, I made a classic."
Right.
You
Right.
have to really, really work to do it. And so that was the thing. It was just like, okay, don't mess it up. Don't drop the ball. Be serious about it every day. Work every weekend if you need to. And then, so to see it coming back and see, now it's a ride now in Disneyland and Disney World,
Right.
on it and stuff. And it's like, that was not in my dreams, but like, I'm glad.
Right.
I'm glad that generations and generations are going to enjoy it and take strength from Tiana.
Right.
Yeah, your granddaughter. I
So
know
that's
I know
crazy.
exactly what I think she's. She hopefully she loves the same things about it that I do when it was just popping out of my brain.
Man, that's crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy. To me, it sounds like writing.
Thank you.
Sounds like writing. If you can, transpose it into music, it sounds like the script and writing is the drum track
Yes.
that everybody builds from.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is the inspiration for everybody
Sure.
to
Yeah.
add
Sure.
to, right?
Yeah.
Because
you-
musically speaking, if you don't have that rhythm track together,
Yeah.
you really don't have the song yet.
Yeah. And
You
you
know.
work real hard on that, and then you are trying to make your favorite thing.
Yeah.
You are trying to make a song your favorite song.
Yeah.
A song that moves you. It touches your heart.
Right.
And then you show it to somebody else, and they go, "Ooh, I got that.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the ball now.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to put a bass line on it.
It inspires their
It's
work.
going to kill that.
Yeah.
And then somebody else is like, "Ooh, I got a rhythm track that's going to go really good.
Yeah.
I got some bars for you."
I got some sense
You
to
know,
go
here
on
we-
top of that.
Here we go. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And everybody is on that track, and everybody is just kind of like, this will be great. This will be whatever. And that wonderful thing happens where the ultimately the thing that ultimately comes out is a cousin to what you started with,
Mm.
but it's building off of that. If you don't bring that
That's the
rhythm track
foundation.
first,
Yeah.
it never gets there.
Right.
You know, and so you just hope to inspire, and that everybody pluses it, and you know,
That's amazing.
you just make fun stuff.
So going from that, Rob, I want to segue into something in my heart, based off of the impact that something like The Princess and the Frog had, is just as important and impactful to not only, film and television, but also to Black people. And that's a project that we're working on together.
Oh yeah.
And what brought us together
Oh yeah.
is a project called Defiant, the story of Robert Smalls.
Yep.
Now, I know Robert Smalls. I don't know him personally, but I feel like I do now from working on the project for so long.
Oh yeah.
And working with you on this project. And here goes. So I'm going to show what we have right now, because it's going to be a film and or series. I know you and I are fighting for a series, but
we're fighting for a series. The producers are fighting for
the
it.
producer are fighting.
We will make something.
Right.
And it may be a backdoor. It may be a feature that leads into a series,
Right.
or it may be a series. If it's a series, we get to tell all the stories.
Yes.
Right.
If it's a movie, we'll still have some impact.
Right.
We'll still make a great movie.
And Rob and I are both co-producers on the film. But Rob, and based off this conversation that we just had, this beautiful conversation that we just had and are having, Rob has taken the helm of being the writer of this true story about a true American hero, what we like to call an American superhero.
Yes.
Because he's a superhero, we decided to, before going into making of the film and or series, we wanted to kind of immortalize him in the world of superheroes. And by doing so, we made a graphic novel, because there was no real IP on Robert Smalls. There was no real book on telling his story.
There were
from his
there were many
perspective.
books, but not from the perspective that we wanted to tell.
Yes,
about.
and this is I just want to show everybody, this is the
Wow.
graphic novel
Issue
that is
1.
out right now.
Covered by Nicholas Draper Ivey, who does Static Shock for DC.
Wow.
He's an amazing young artist. Insides are done by, among others, Ray Anthony Height did a bunch of them. Sean Damian Hill, who expert, just really, really wonderful artist. It's by Stranger Comics, which is the biggest, the best of the independent publishers of comic books, which is also Black owned, which is great.
Come on.
Yeah, right. Shout out to Sebastian Jones.
Shout out to Sebastian Jones, did a wonderful
Super dope.
job.
Sebastian is amazing. He's British dude,
Right.
biracial British dude who got it right away.
Right
as soon
away.
as we started talking, he says, he's Shaft, right? I'm like, he is Shaft,
Right.
thank you.
Yeah.
Just
Because-
really quick, tell us who Robert Smalls is for people who don't know.
Who don't know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Rob, please. He does it better than me.
Okay.
He's great.
Here's the way I like to tell. It's like,
Okay.
on April 13th of 1862, a Confederate ship called the Planter launched at 3 a.m. from its dock in Charleston, and 3 hours later surrendered itself to the Union Army. It was loaded with the most weapons ever in history to that date. It was the biggest haul, the biggest seizure of weapons in the entire Confederate, the Civil War. What nobody knew at the time, until that happened, until 6 o'clock, was that the captain of the ship was a 63-year-old guy named Robert Smalls, who, I'm sorry, it was a 23-year-old kid, Robert Smalls. He had gotten the 9 members of the Black crew to keep the secret, launch the ship, meet their families in the bay, put them on the boat, risk their lives past 5 military checkpoints, dressed as the captain. They lined the ship with gunpowder in case they were caught, because they knew if they were caught, they'd be dragged through the streets, they'd be made an example of.
Right.
So they had to succeed. And so they all had faith in this 23-year-old kid to get them there. When he got there, he, like I said, it was the biggest haul. The entire crew made a lot of money. They, made off very well. He went immediately to Abraham Lincoln and convinced him to allow Black troops to fight on the Union side of the Civil War, and it changed the dynamics of the war.
Wow.
So when you see the movie Glory is because of Robert Smalls. He started a publishing house because at the end of the Civil War, nobody knew where their families were, and they needed to get the word out, and white papers wouldn't do it, so he had his own. He started a railroad because people, as they were starting businesses, they couldn't get their goods from one place to another. So he
Right.
started the railroad to help them out. He ran for Congress 5 times and won, even though at that time, Jim Crow was coming around and did not want him
Of
to
course.
continue to win.
Right.
But while he was in Congress, he basically gave us public schools because literacy was so important to him. So he invented public schools. He's the reason why we go to public schools now.
Wow.
He bought the house that he was enslaved in. And when the owner's wife came back, he allowed her to live in the house because she had dementia. She didn't know any other house. He allowed her to live in the house until she died. And he himself did the most heroic thing, I think. With a bounty on his head for his entire life, he died of old age. And we know nothing about him.
Wow.
We know zero about this guy. When you say Robert Smalls, and you talk about his birthday and everything like
Most
that,
people don't know.
We know nothing about him.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Man,
so
that's a real American.
So this
real hero.
is righting a wrong,
Yeah.
And when they
Amazing
first
work,
came
brother.
up and said, "Hey, do you want to take a pass at this?" I said, "I want to write this whole thing."
Right.
I said, "In the hands of anybody else, I'm not sure what's going to happen with it. I know what will happen if I'm writing it. I know I can write it well. I know I can find a way to write it that it's not going to be about the pain of slavery, which
Right.
is what everything is, and it's kind of like off-putting, right? You see a movie. I don't know. I don't want to single out Emancipation, but you see a movie like that. It's so much about pain and mud and whips and chains. And all that
We're
kind
not
of
gonna
stuff.
sing them out, but
And this is-
Emancipation.
Yeah, right. Emancipation was a painful movie. It was a beautiful movie. I
Right.
love the filmmakers, whatever. It was
Yeah.
well written and all that stuff.
Right.
But man, it was painful to watch.
You want to focus
And
on the triumph.
I want to, on the triumph, on the inspiration. I want kids to watch it and say, I can be Robert Smalls. All the stuff I was talking about earlier of like, just do not let fear be your guide.
Right.
To see a moment like that, for a 23-year-old kid to say, freedom is more important than anything that I could face on the way to it.
Right.
And to convince a crew full of people to go with him on this thing, to pilot this thing to freedom, and to, once he became free, to live the freest life possible. I always say that the crime of slavery wasn't the whips and chains and all that stuff, although that was huge. It was that doctors, lawyers, businessmen, millionaires were kept from being who they were because
Right.
of the institution of slavery.
Right.
They were just picking cotton when they could have been changing the world.
Right.
And he, once he was free, showed all that.
Right.
Mm.
And that's what a series would be, because he wasn't alone.
Right.
There were a lot
Yeah,
of
this has got to be a series. I'm sorry, y'all got
I
my
tell you.
vote. I see why.
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
guys
gotta
are
be a
fighting.
series.
You gotta
can't
tell
tell
those
that
stories.
just a 2-hour movie.
we
or
don't
whatever.
we don't talk about that. It's like, what happens when the boot of not just slavery but racism is taken off our necks?
Right.
What can we do if nobody says no?
Right.
If for that little bit of time when Lincoln was kind of like, there were Union troops kind of running governments and making sure that things were cool for black folks.
Oh yeah.
And then of course Jim Crow comes in and all of everybody's talking about everything. And what is that life?
Right.
What is that utopia? What is that? What did we do with that time?
Right.
And let that time inspire who we are now, what we do now.
Right.
So hopefully, in my mind, like a teenage kid who is thinking like, I don't know, can I do this? Whatever, will read the books or will see the movie or watch the series and say, wait, if that guy can be a slave and not be able to read, and at 23 he does his thing and then becomes one of the most influential people in our history.
Right.
If he can do that, yeah, maybe I can, spend a little more time in school, or maybe
Right.
whatever,
Mhm.
or
So-
maybe I'll become a
That's
lawyer.
beautiful.
or
We
doctor.
got
so,
about-
do you know what's so powerful about this here? This is because I always apply things to life.
Oh yeah,
And what he's saying from a psychological standpoint is, can you imagine being able to enter a relationship without your psychological baggage?
yep.
So he's basically saying this guy went through all of this and still
Yeah.
was able to find freedom that was divorced from everything that was going on at the time.
Yep.
Whether it's Jim Crow, whether it's racism, slavery, whatever, he still found freedom within himself.
Mhm.
That's so big, man. This
Yeah,
this
it's
to
what
me,
you
this
do
is a
with-
book about possibility.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's what happens
Yeah.
between your ears when
Yeah.
you know, when those things happen. It's like, you know, you watch Shawshank, and Shawshank is about a man who never believed that he was incarcerated.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
and this
wow.
is a man, and it's in there. It's in there. The guy says,
Great point.
longshoreman says, you know, oh, a slave who doesn't know he's a slave, the most tragic thing I've ever seen.
Right.
You know, and that was who he was. He just never had the mindset of a slave.
My
He
God.
always
Wow.
saw himself as a free person just waiting to be free.
Right.
Wow.
And I think that there's, you know, hopefully generational. I mean, I hope not just black folk, but that everybody can, everybody can read this story and see not only the tragedy of it, but the inspiration,
Yeah.
you know, from it.
Well, Rob, man, I can't thank you enough. We can't thank you enough
No, we
for
can't.
your time, effort, and energy,
No,
brother.
this has
Your
been- this has been
your
super
story, your journey, your wealth of knowledge, your wealth of inspiration. I'm personally honored to work with you. I'm honored to know you,
Likewise.
and just thank you, man, for again proving what this whole podcast is about, and that is nothing is ever what it seems.
Come on.
It's all smoke and mirrors.
Yes,
So,
yes.
So
Yeah.
so thank you, brother. Thank you guys for watching.
Master storyteller.
Yeah, master storyteller. This is Marvin Jones, you know, with our lovely co-hosts, Zoe Williams and Chace Infinite. We will see you on the next Smoke and Mirrors podcast.